Welcome to the Achieve It podcast, hosted by marketing coach, journalist, technologist, and Speaker Hall of Fame member Terry Brock. Get ready to discover new and interesting ways to reach and connect with customers as Terry and his guests dive into the world of technology, marketing, relationship building, productivity, and other ideas that will help you achieve your entrepreneurial dreams. And now, here's your host, a fun and smart guy with a really good haircut, Terry Brock.
The job of being a professional speaker is one of the most awesome in the world. Doing it the right way, though, requires a lot of knowledge, and you need to know the roadmap, need to know the guides of how to do it just right. Well, if you are thinking about being a professional speaker, or maybe you already are and you want to touch it up a little bit, you are in for a treat the next few minutes, because I have joining me Grant Baldwin, my buddy, who is also a professional speaker. We're going to be talking about his new book, The Successful Speaker. Grant, thanks for being with us today.
Terry, thanks so much, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, I got to compliment you. I'm high-fiving you across the miles, my man, because I read your book, not just once or twice. I read it actually 3 times. It's that good. And I've been a speaker myself for about 36 years now, and I learned from it. There's a lot of good that you've got in there, and we want to talk about it. So you did this with Jeff Goins, a guy that well-known, really well-respected in the world of speaking and writing and doing a lot. From the big picture point of view, tell us a little bit about the book and who is it for and who benefits most from the Successful Speaker.
Yeah, Terry. So for a lot of people who are interested in speaking, they are interested in getting started, but they don't really know what to do next. That's kind of how I got started. I did a little bit of speaking, was interested in speaking, wanted to do more, but wasn't quite sure where to go from there. I felt like I had the potential, but I needed the plan. And so there's a lot of speakers that are like that. They've done a little bit of speaking, maybe through their company or something in the community or something at church. They want to do more, but no idea where do you go from there? How much do you charge? Who hires speakers? What do you speak about? Like, how does the speaking world work? And even for like yourself, someone who has a lot of experience as a speaker, but is wanting to continually maybe do more gigs or higher quality gigs or higher paying gigs, or even just to fine tune the systems that run their business. And so that's what we wanted to do, is just give a step-by-step process of exactly how do you find and book gigs and run the business of being a speaker.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you do a good job of that. Matter of fact, what I want to do right now, if it's all right with you, go through a few portions of the book, those that I thought were particularly nice, highlight, and take a look at those and what they are, and then get your comments on it so we can get, hey, not only what's in the book, but also in other areas. So what we'll do is fire up my keynotes here, keynote presentation. There's the book again. If you're watching this, it's The Successful Speaker, 5 Steps for Booking Gigs, Getting Paid, and Building Your Platform. And seriously, he did a really good job on that. And I like it at the beginning. Grant, I want to get your intake on this. You talk about the speaking roadmap, where you have the ways that you can narrow your interests. Like, what do I enjoy talking about? And then, does it pass the 5-year test? I love that one. I thought it was particularly good. And are other people interested too? These are 3 key areas we want to focus on. And then you talk about the speak here, the speak to solve a problem, prepare, etc. Let's start over here first, though, on the narrow your interests and what you talk about there with those 3 points.
Yeah, so for a lot of speakers, that first part of that acronym, SPEAK, S-P-E-A-K, the select a problem to solve, this is the most important foundational piece. This is the part that most speakers have such a difficult time with, because we feel like we want to cast the net as far and wide as possible. The more things I can speak about, the more audiences I can speak to, the more opportunities I have. And so what we end up thinking is, well, who do I speak to? I speak to people. I speak to humans. My message is for everyone. And what do I speak about? Well, what do you want me to speak about? I can speak about leadership or culture or change or sales or any number of things. And the reality is like, maybe you know something about all those things, maybe you're passionate about all those things, but you cannot try to speak on all of those things. So on the interest part, we talk about interest, integrity, and what was the third one? I'm drawing a blank on it now. Anyway, it's in the book. So all 3 of those make this overlapping circle of figuring out, being really clear on what you're interested in, what you're passionate about, but also making sure that there's a market for that, but also that there is an industry that people are actually hiring speakers to talk about that. The third one that just came to me is integrity, that are you actually qualified to talk about that? So the industry, interest, and integrity, having those 3 overlapping circles there so that you're finding the topic and the audience that makes the most sense for you.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things you and I agree on, we agree upon many, many things. The idea of you can't just do something, follow your passion and the money will be there.
Right.
No, you need that intersection, the Venn diagram, if we will, where you're looking at all those different areas and how they work, how they all come together. So I think what you said there, and it's a good way to get started with it and say, okay, we're going to look at all of these and how they really relate, establishing your expertise, acquiring your paid gigs, and then knowing when to scale. I love that part of the book. We're going to get to that in just a bit. But what you did here really is comprehensive in looking at what's there. Now, when you talked about a rhythm for your talk, I thought that was good. You're talking about all types of different features here. Like once you know your talk structure, how do you organize it? Before we get into outlining a talk, you need to figure out a way to make it flow. The rhythm I use is this is you speaking. You present a point, expand on the point, and then tell a story to illustrate the point. Putting that together along with helping the audience then to apply the point and then repeating that. Tell me a little bit about those 5 really critical points. And those of you listening, watching this is when you want to get a screenshot of it or write it down because this is going to help you enormously in speaking. Grant, tell us a little bit more about that, finding the rhythm.
Yeah. So whenever you're creating a talk, you want to make sure you gotta have this ebb and flow to it, right? So I think sometimes whenever we are staring at a blank screen, trying to work on a talk, it's difficult to know, like, where do we go? Like, what points do we use? What do we not use? What stories do we tell? How does this all flow together? I know kind of conceptually all the different pieces that I want to use in a talk, but I'm trying to think through how to piece it together. So think of it again, like having a rhythm, a flow to it so that it makes kind of a logical progression there. Now, I'd like to key in on that 4th point there, of always thinking through as you're creating a talk, the audience is always asking themselves those 2 questions. So what and now what? So what? Why does this matter to me? That's a great story. That's amazing that happened to you. Cool testimonial, cool case study, but how does that apply to me? So you always want to answer that question for the audience. So what? And then the now what? What am I supposed to do as a result of this? What you don't want to have happen is you don't want the audience to leave and think, that was a good talk. That was interesting. That was funny. That was engaging. That was captivating. That was fill in the blank adjective, but I don't know what to do now. So you want to make it really clear of here's why this matters for you. So what? Here's why you should pay attention to this. And now what? What do you need to do as a result of this?
Grant, you do a marvelous job of that also. I'm going to mention something here, not in the book, but you have the speaker lab. And I love what you've done with that, particularly when you go and look at someone else's speech that did a really good job with it. And you kind of dissect it, going through and go, oh, look what he did here. Look what she's doing here. This is really good. And notice a story about that. And it's all directed toward the what's in it for me, the old WIFM thing. WIIFM. I learned long ago, if you can see those letters on everyone's forehead that you talk to, then you're going to do much better. And really, that's what you're talking about. And do you see that happening with speakers, or do you see that speakers today are doing more or less of that?
Well, I think some speakers make the mistake of thinking like I'm on stage to tell a story, right? And here's maybe I've overcome some crazy obstacle. Maybe I conquered cancer. Maybe I climbed Mount Everest in my shorts. But something happened that people are hiring me to talk about. And that's certainly part of it. But again, the audience wants to know what's in it for me. How does this apply to me? That's an amazing story. That's crazy that happened to you. But that has not happened to me. So what does that have to do with my world, with my life, with my marriage, with my family, with my business? Fill in the blanks and make the connection for the audience of what does it have to do with them? So what and now what?
Yeah, I like that. And then coming up with the ideas of what we're going to cover. Some of you also talk about, let me go back here to the book itself and take a look at what you say here. You talk about coming up with the story ideas. Grant, this is just nothing short of brilliant. You mentioned our mutual friend here, Michael Port. And hello, Michael, if you're watching this, I hope you're doing well. Excellent book that Michael wrote called Steal the Show. And he mentions quick and easy way to brainstorm. Think about people like your first boss, high school sweetheart, a coworker. Think about places. Your first job, favorite vacation, or about your things, cars, school, etc., and then about events. Those types of things can come up with it. Tell me a little bit about those a little bit more and any others that you might think of on how we come up with those story ideas. Yeah,
stories are incredibly, incredibly valuable for a speaker and something that I don't know that you can ever have too many stories in a presentation or talk. Now, I really lean towards having first-person stories that you actually lived and experiences, because oftentimes those are much more relatable and memorable for the audience versus, there's a time and place to say, let me tell you this case study about Netflix or Apple or Disney or fill in the blank company, or here, let me tell you this crazy story that happened in the 1800s or something. Like, again, there's nothing wrong with those, but I think it's also much more relatable and memorable whenever you can share, let me tell you about a story about my first car. Let me tell you about a story about taking my daughters to Disney World. Let me tell you about a story about going skydiving. And all of those are stories that I actually use today. And so those stories are very memorable and relatable, and people will come up afterwards and say, oh, let me tell you about my first car, or, oh, I actually went skydiving recently, or my daughter's had the same experience at Disney, or whatever the thing may be. Those things are really memorable and relatable. So I recommend that, again, you tell a lot of stories, but ideally that you use a lot of first person stories. Now, what we outline there in the book, and some of that again comes from Michael Port and his book, Steal the Show. We talk about basically how do you just brainstorm and come up with some of these different things, right? Because sometimes when the thing happens, we don't think about it in the moment of, yeah, but I don't know how to use this on stage, okay? Don't have that filter at the moment. Just kind of like brainstorm anything that's happened to you that you think like, that's kind of an interesting story. That's kind of a funny story. Again, I have no clue what I'm going to do with it. No clue where I'm going to go with it, but I've got a story here, right? And I think you and I both know, Terry, after doing this for many, many years, we can tell a story and make multiple points out of it, depending on the context, depending on the audience, depending on the point that we're trying to make. So it's not at this point about filtering and determining where like, I don't know how this would fit with my talk. We're not worried about that. At this point, just come up with a bunch of stories, and then we can kind of figure out what the point of the story is that makes sense for the audience.
Yeah, I like the way you said that. And those of you that are watching this, think about what he just said. You can tell a story, and that's nice. Too often people just tell the story and let it drop. You want to make that bridge that Grant talks about in the book extensively. Very important in your own speeches. Tell the story, yes, but then relate it directly to that audience. And there might be different applications. I've seen many professional speakers through the years, and the best are the ones who have some stock stories, some signature stories, as we like to say. And they might have several of those, but they're always able to take it and relate it directly to that particular audience on that day for this time. Really important to do that. And one of the other things that you do a lot with, Grant, and you and I have this in common as well, technology. Chapter 7, you talk about technology a lot, and you mention some good ones, and be sure and get that book. You're watching this right now. You want to know about some of the ideas, how to use your slides and things like that. Grant, while we got you right here, we're not going to let you get away without finding out some of your favorite technologies and some that you particularly you find are really good you go back to, or anything new that's come out maybe that might not even be in the book that you particularly like in today's world.
Yeah, I want to spend some time actually, if we could talk about slides. Slides is one of those things that is really important for speakers, but can also be used very much as a crutch. And slides can be a very powerful technology, but again, you have to be able to use them properly. So one of the things we talk about with technology as it relates to slides in the book is that slides should be an enhancement, not a replacement for your talk. Slides should be an enhancement, not a replacement for your talk. Meaning, here's a good little litmus test. If 5 minutes before you're about to go on stage, let's say that the projector breaks down, the computer's not working, the slides aren't going to work, the clicker's not working, something in technology breaks down, which happens. It absolutely happens.
Oh yeah.
Is your talk still ready? Are you still able to go on? So if you're able to say like, I can't give my talk without my slides, then you're not ready, right? Then you can just show a video. There's no need for you to actually be there. So slides are really, really powerful and effective. But again, you want to make sure that you're using them as an enhancement, not a replacement for your talk. Now, having said that, there's a lot of different forms of technology, even from thinking about the microphone that you use, thinking about how you use lights, how you use sound effects, or how you use background music. There's a lot of different types of tools, even interacting and engaging with the audience and doing any type of poll, any type of interactive poll. You can also use texting in for different opt-ins. So there's a lot of different things that you can use to make it much more than you standing on stage with a microphone just as kind of a talking head. And all of a sudden it becomes much more of an interactive experience for the audience.
Yeah, I like it. And there's that word again, interactive. Mm-hmm. That is critical in today's world. Just the old sage on the stage spewing forth information for hours and hours. Well, that's not as relevant today. We don't see that used as much. Right now, the key today is that interactive. And I love what you say about the slides. They should be there. I often thought, and tell me what you think of this, I've often thought you need to be able to deliver your presentation. If you had to do the same thing, suddenly you couldn't do it in the building. You had to go out back, stand on a stump with no microphone, nothing. You're just going to talk to the people there, being able to deliver it that way. That way you know your presentation and you're able to get it across.
Absolutely, because again, the mistake that some speakers make is they use their slides as that crutch, almost as like cue cards of, I don't remember what I'm supposed to say next unless I have my slide. Then you're not ready, right? You need to make sure that, again, the talk stands on its own and it's a solid talk. And that way, again, the slides become an enhancement, not a replacement. So for example, if I were going to, it's one thing if I said, let me tell you a story about my wife and my daughters. I can tell you a story about them and I kind of describe them. But if I show you a picture, the picture is truly worth more than 1,000 words. But again, if I don't have the slides, if the technology works, if I don't have the picture, then I need to be able to still tell the story and be strong and confident in that, versus saying like, the technology didn't work, or I would normally show a picture of my family here, but unfortunately you can't see it. And like, then again, you take something away from the audience that they didn't know that they had. So don't blame technology. Just, you have to be a professional speaker and say, it didn't work. I'm going to just make that mental switch and move on and still give a strong presentation.
Exactly, because I think of Mike McKinley, a great speaker. He said his father, Paul McKinley, would say often, they don't know your script. So
Yes.
if something doesn't work, you don't have to go, oh no, the slides aren't working. You're just going into a downward spiral. They don't know that you were or were not going to use slides. You just make sure that no matter what happens, you are professional. You deliver it in a way that pleases the audience. I think that's important. And speaking of pleasing the audience and your readers, Grant, you did something nice. I'm going to take a time here, and I want to share something that you put together, that you have several places in the book. You talk about some bonuses that are available as well. We got the bonus slides here, bonus availability. Go to speakerbookbonus.com. This is, again, where you're watching this. Get a screenshot of this one or write that down and bounce over. Don't bounce over right now. Wait till we finish here. But go over there and take a look at Speaker Book Bonus, because I went over there. There's a lot of good information there on different kinds of video equipment, the tools, the resources, and things like that. Tell us a little bit about what's available when they go to Speaker Book Bonus.
Yeah, so one of the things that is the challenge with the book is once you print the book, there's not a lot of editing and changing that goes into it, right? It is what it is, and it's going to be around for hopefully a long time. But the reality is like technology evolves and changes as well, and there's certainly going to be some different resources and things that we didn't put in the book because we knew that they may, by the time someone will read it, may or may not be relevant to what is the latest technology or what's working or not working at the time. So we wanted to just put some type of resource in there of just kind of like, hey, if you want to go deeper on this topic, here's some additional resources that you can get. So yeah, everything's going to be over at speakerbookbonus.com.
Very nice, and some really good information there. I was over there just this morning taking a look at it, and you did a great job there. Well, one of the things I think throughout the book was the practical nature of what you talk about. As a professional speaker myself, I see what's there and what you're talking about. I picked up some real good nuggets there, but also I love what you said here in the end. One of the last things here I want to cover on this, you have toward the end of the book, is where you talk about what's going on right now in more than just speaking, diversifying your income streams. Calculate your income pie. Where's your income coming from? Do you spend the most time on these, et cetera, and decide what kind of speaker you want to be and focus on the activities that are going to get you there. And also where we're going from where we are right now. There's a lot of other areas. Often we like to say that we are communicators who solve problems. For those of you that are in the National Speakers Association, you know that is also CSP, Certified Speaking Professional. But really, we're communicators who solve problems. And I really appreciate you going into this. Tell us a little bit about other income streams that are out there that you see for not only yourself, but for other speakers as well.
Yeah, one of the things that we have noticed is there's a lot of speakers who are interested in speaking and sharing their message from the stage, but are also interested in sharing their message through other mediums. So that could be in the form of a book, or podcast, or videos like this, or social media, or coaching, or consulting, or doing a course. So there's no shortage of opportunities. What you have to be really clear for as a speaker is determining what makes sense for you, what kind of business model you want to have, and how does speaking fit into that. So Terry, you and I, we both know speakers who speak 100 times a year, and that's 90, 95, 100% of their business and the revenue, and that's fine. And other speakers who speak 5 times a year, and speaking is a very small percentage of their business, and that's also fine. It's not that one is better or worse than the other. You have to be really, really clear for you and for your business what it is that you want to accomplish and the people that you want to help. It's how does speaking best make sense for you and in your business. So again, there's not one size fits all, but also recognizing that that you can do all the things, you can kind of adjust and pivot there, but you can't do all the things at once. So something's going to come first, something's going to come last. So you have to be really clear about how does speaking fit into the goals that you want to accomplish.
Yeah, that's important. How does speaking fit into what you want to accomplish and what you're trying to do when you're working with it? The book is called The Successful Speaker, 5 Steps for Booking Gigs, Getting Paid, Building Your Platform. Grant Baldwin and his co-author, Jeff Goins, put this together, and they did an exceptionally good job, in my opinion. By the way, over here, this is how you can get in touch with him, grantbaldwin.com. Here's another one. You want to screenshot this one, write that down, and also find him on Instagram, on Twitter, Facebook, G. Baldwin, Grant Baldwin, and Grant Baldwin fans there. All of that is how you can get in touch with him. Grant, before we let you go, any final words that you would give to someone who either they've already been speaking for a while or they're getting started with it? Where do you see professional speaking and speaking in public for other reasons going in the 2020s?
Yeah, great question. So the reality is that a lot of people are interested in speaking, and a lot of people can be speakers, but it does require work. So one of the things that we talk about inside the book is that it's simple, but it's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. So, for example, if we wanted to lose 5 pounds, what do we need to do? It's pretty simple. I'm no health expert, but I know I need to pay attention to what I eat, and I need to exercise. That's really it, right? It's very simple, but to execute on it is not easy. It still requires work. It still requires discipline. It still requires effort. And so for everyone watching or listening right now who says, I want to be a speaker, whether, again, you want to do 1 gig a year, you want to go from 0 to 1, which is important because Terry and I used to do 0 gigs and then we went from 0 to 1. Everyone does their first gig. Or you want to do 100 gigs a year and you're, in the 30, 40, 50 range and you're trying to continue to scale up. Both work, both are effective, but you have to be clear on what it is that you want to accomplish. And again, recognizing and realizing you can do this, but it does require effort. Okay. It does require effort. The other thing I would point out is that there is plenty of room in the marketplace. There are literally every single day, there are thousands and thousands of speaking opportunities that exist. And Terry and I cannot do them all by ourselves. There are plenty of opportunities that exist.
We have tried, but it doesn't work.
It does not work.
It can only be in one place.
There's only so many gigs that any one speaker can do. Because sometimes you may be intimidated at looking up to other speakers. Well, I would never be as good as they are. Well, whoever you're thinking of right now, they can't do 365 days a year. They cannot do all those gigs. There's plenty of room in the marketplace for you. But again, you have to be able to follow a plan and a structure to be able to create that business for yourself. And so that's exactly what we teach inside the Successful Speaker.
Yeah, I like it. Speaking is a wonderful profession. I've been doing it for many years. Love it. Plan to do it for at least another 7,384 years.
Give or take.
And look at give or take. Yeah, we're going to do that. Keep going. And because Grant, guys with you and me, like with these really good haircuts, we get to do that. We keep going strong. But this is not only giving you good ideas, but a good roadmap. It's kind of like you got a coach. You got Grant there helping you out. For a few coins, you can get yourself the book. It's going to give you what you need and really work a lot with it. Grant, thank you very much for being with us today and for putting the book together. Please tell Jeff we appreciate his efforts on that as well.
Thanks, Terry.
And for those of you joining us, get over there and take a peek at this. This is something you want to look at. If you're looking at speaking, this is a book that can really help you. We look forward to hearing from you on that. I'm Terry Brock with terrybrock.com, and thanks for being with us today.